You remember some time ago where I've spoken about JAMB, and we did remind you, we went down memory lane and showed you some images of the head of JAMB, Professor Shakolede, weeping as to some of the things that went wrong and talked so much, blah, blah, blah. But I'd like to be very clear this morning. The 2026 JAMB mock examination was supposed to be a test of the system. Instead, it became a test of the patience, the resilience, and frankly, the endurance of Nigerian students and their parents. Across centers on Saturday, March 28th, what played out was not preparation, it was dysfunction. Students scheduled for a 2-hour exam spent close to 4 hours navigating delays, system failures, and uncertainty. In some centers, there was no electricity, no backup, no urgency, just waiting. Parents, many of them stood outside under the scorching sun, some as you see there, sitting, hoping, wondering if this system their children depend on is actually ready. And here's the part, the troubling part, I might add. The leadership of JAMB was present in at least one of the centers, that's the prof himself, Professor Oloyede, and yet the problems persisted. What does this tell us? It simply says, this is no longer about awareness. It is not about oversight. It is about execution. Because if you can see the failure and it still happens, then it is no longer an accident. It is a breakdown. And the simple question today is simple. What is the explanation to parents this time? What will it be? Parents who paid, parents who woke up at 4 a.m., parents who were there to meet the 6:30 reporting time. Parents who took the risks, made sacrifices, only to be told in some cases to go home because the system failed again. We are now hearing a familiar refrain, JAMB is not ready. And if this is true, if after everything the system is still not ready, then what exactly are we preparing students for in the main examination? Because this is just mock. This cannot continue. A mock exam that fails this badly raises serious questions about the credibility of the real one. And if the same issues carry over, then yes, there will be no excuses, none. Because accountability cannot stop at explanations. It must include consequences. Otherwise, what we're doing is normalizing failure and encouraging impunity. This is not just about technology. It's about fairness. It's about trust. And it is about the future of millions of Nigerian students. So the expectation now is not complicated. Fix the system, for crying out loud, and audit the centers, guarantee power, connectivity, and coordination. And above all, do not fail these students again, JAMB. Don't.
Very little to add to that, Chamberlain. Very, very little, because it already describes the problem and, already profiles the solution. It profiles what the expectations of Nigerians are, the minimum expectations of Nigerians. I think the only saving grace we have here is that this is mock. Mock as opposed to be preparatory. But if the preparations are anything to go by, then people have, reason to be worried about what the real exams will look like. I want to believe that Professor Oloyede will take this very seriously. Thankfully, he was on the ground himself. He saw things with his own eyes. Unfortunately, they did not even get any better. So I want to believe that having seen what he saw, he will have an idea of what needs to be done to make sure that the main exams are not a failure. We'll wait to hear from them to see what exactly the explanation will be this time around as to such a dismal, let's say, performance or dismal outing for this mock exams. But in the meantime, we will say these are mock exams. And we'll wait and say, JAMB, we sincerely hope that the main exams will be far better than what we saw. Will be a great improvement over what we saw. Chamberlain, JAMB and mock exams, or I say JAMB and electronic exams, they've been doing this now for years.
Yeah.
One would think that as they go on every year, it will get better. I think JAMB was one of the areas that people now started looking at, even INEC. They say, but JAMB is doing it. Even WAEC now is saying, but JAMB is doing it. They too are looking at how they can do electronic examinations, because JAMB has now had this technology for a while. I imagine that they're trying to improve on it. But what we're looking at is not just the technology that was deployed in the systems, it's the general logistics of getting this ready. No electricity, system failure. What exactly is going on? What are those about? Big questions really need to be asked as to what exactly happened with the logistics arrangement. But as we said, it's mock exams. We want to believe that the mock is supposed to help you prepare for the main thing. If you have now seen how dismally, horribly wrong this went, then perhaps there will be greater preparation for what the main exams will be.
Well, unfortunately, we can only hope for that one, because what we saw over the weekend, the mock exams, in fact, it was a mockery of the mock exams.
Indeed.